I'm RoseAnn Sapia for GALvanize, and today I'm so honored to be joined by Christina Hovestadt. Christina is the Manager of Community Relations for the NFL, the founder of A Seat at the Table, the host of the Set Apart Women podcast, and so much more. But today isn't about any of that at all. It's about who Christina truly is. Thank you so much for joining me today, Christina.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited because I don't think I've ever done an interview where it's not about what I do, but who I am. So that's awesome.
Awesome. I'm so excited. So let's jump right in. When living an intentional life like you do, every moment matters. Every moment is significant and can make a change. But in this moment of pandemic and social injustice and women in sports empowerment, how have you found your purpose?
So I have this philosophy that I live by personally and professionally, and it's really to be where your feet are and to be faithful where you are. And so I think there's this misconception and something that I even struggled with when I was in my early 20s. And it was that if I don't find this end all be all purpose, then I'm going to make the wrong decision. I'm going to make the wrong turn. I'm not going to be living the life I'm supposed to live or that I'm created for. And I realized, especially looking in the last 10 years, that as long as you're faithful where you are with what's in front of you and the needs that are in front of you, you're living a life on purpose. If you love the person in front of you, you are literally living your life on purpose. And I think we overcomplicate that a lot. And so for me, just right now in this season of my life, it's who's in front of me right now. And yes, it's everyone on Zoom and with work, and that's continuing, thankfully. But right now it's my family. And so my grandmother has caretakers, and just being purposeful and intentional where I am of loving on her and loving my sister and my mom and dad who I get to see more. I mean, that's what I'm doing in this season. And in a couple weeks, my purpose will look different, but it'll still also look the same of loving the person in front of me. So that's how I find purpose, just being where my feet are.
One of my favorite phrases that you use is faith isn't faith without questions. And I feel like that's such a big thing right now because there is so much going on. But what are you questioning right now?
I think uncertainty has gotten the best of me a little bit. I'm definitely a go with the flow type person, so I don't feel like I need control over everything. But there's been so many like uncontrollables in the season for everyone, as we were talking about before this interview. And I think right now it's just questioning of how can I make the most of my time right now, even in the midst of all the uncertainty. And it's like a constant back to that word intentional mindset of, what am I doing right now? There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that people don't know the answers to. But if I can be intentional about continuing to live my life on purpose in the midst of all the questions, then I feel like I'm on the right track. So I think I have the same questions as everybody, just what the heck is going on, but it's like, how are we going to intentionally move through that and together and be better on the other side of all of this?
When do you think you'll get the answer to like those questions of like, what was this for?
So I think, okay, so this is cliche, but hindsight's 2020, right? So like this year, I think a lot of the times in my life, I always see the purpose after it actually happens. And I think that we'll see whether it's the people that we got to build relationships with throughout this quarantine, the opportunities that have presented themselves, the new way of technology that we've been able to use things and connect with people in ways we never have before. I think in hindsight, we'll see where all of this, even rest sometimes in the midst of the craziness, is so important. And I kind of, in my life right now, there's a lot of questions that I might have. And honestly, we might never get answers to some of the questions that we have, but that's what faith is. It's just keep moving, knowing that everything's going to work together for our good at the end of the day. Even if we don't see it right now, we'll see it either later or never, but knowing that life is working out the way that it's supposed to for us. And let's just make the most of it while we can right now.
That hindsight thing, like they always say that hindsight is catching up to God's foresight. Now that we're here at this sort of rest, are you noticing a lot of things about yourself before that you're like, oh, wow, like this is what was happening and now I sort of see why?
Absolutely. That just made me smile so big because that is like my favorite quote. It's like, we always see the things after the fact that God was doing in the present. And so the fact that we don't trust we have to intentionally trust all the time in the midst of the craziness. But yeah, I mean, honestly, when I moved to New York 2 years ago, actually more than 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now, it was really hard for me. I had come from Virginia and then Florida before that. And so the lifestyle is just go, 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 go. It's been 2.5 years of just trying to survive because it's just crazy up there to me. If you're not from New York, it's just like a whole nother lifestyle. And so now in quarantine and in what's going on with all these questionings and things going on now, I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, like I'm happy I went through that fire of really like a refinement season, because if I was comfortable all the time, then I would never grow. And so now, while I might have like not loved being uncomfortable or pruning all the time the things that needed to be refined, now I look at it and I'm like, I am caught up on rest, relaxation, family time, working out physically, mentally, spiritually, everything's stronger, thankfully. And I can look back and say, okay, like that was a hard season, but I don't regret it because now I see the other side of it.
And how do you just continue to keep yourself here? Like that whole idea of be where your feet are. I feel like it's sort of like a trick because everyone wants to get to what's next, especially right now. But how do you stay zoned into that?
To be honest, faith is a huge part of my life. It hasn't always been. I started in college really deciding to walk out my faith and to really have a relationship with God. And so just being prayerful every day, being intentional every day, and just keeping him first in everything I do is really honestly how I believe I get the opportunities that I do, that God crosses the people that need to cross my path at the right time and vice versa. And it's just always remembering that there's a reason he says not to worry about tomorrow. And that's because we need to be present today, because that's a burden that we cannot carry. Like if we knew in March what was happening right now, like what would happen over the last 5 months, everybody would be like, I'm out, like I'm not doing it. But like if we focus on the day and today only and not worry about tomorrow, then we'll just let tomorrow bring its own problems or troubles or triumphs or whatever it might be. And so again, I go back to that word intentional, because that's how I truly have to proactively live my life. Is maybe there's a thought that doesn't line up with where I'm going, or an action or a habit or whatever that might be. And it's like, no, I'm not going to feed on this. I'm going to, even though it's not comfortable, say, I'm focused on today. I'm not worried about tomorrow. Let's worry about today and let the blessings that are supposed to be in your life today come. If we're always worrying about what's next, we're going to miss everything that he's doing today. And in our lives, we're just going to run by life. And I did that a lot in my early 20s. I was always like, what's next? What's next? Mm-hmm. And now it's more of what's now and what's in front of me, because I want to enjoy it. You know, I don't want to be on my deathbed and thinking like, man, I had a lot of cool things happen, but I never actually fully experienced them because I wasn't present. But I want to say like, I really miss that feeling or emotion that I felt on that day, you know? So just being present really, and it's hard sometimes.
This series is called Who Not Do, and that is a motto that you've been fully embracing for some time now. How has that mantra impacted the way that you live your life?
I would say that when you work in the industry that we work in, it's so easy to get wrapped up in your work and who you are outside of that work. Sometimes it kind of starts blending together. And so if I were to lose my job today or whatever, there's some people that just might not have an identity out of what they do. It's always this production mindset of like prove, grind, hustle, do. And at the end of the day, when that's taken away, am I someone outside of that? Do I have identity outside of my career, or what, even the good things that I'm passionate about? And so I think that this, I love the series, especially because what I do is what I do. It's not who I am. And there's so many different facets of me that I love for people to get to know, because that ultimately helps me do the job that I do today. And so I really love that you guys are doing this, because it's so needed. And there's realizing that every single person is just a person with like a lot of other stuff going on. And our identity should never be tied up in just our work, because we are so much more than that.
If you could give me only one piece of advice about staying present and putting purpose over hustle that I should carry with me for the rest of my life, what would it be?
That's really hard, but a really good question. In regards to hustling and the grind that we're in and purpose, I'll give you two, if that's okay.
Yes.
One, if you're faith-based, see God first and everything else will be added to you. That's my life motto. And my nourishment comes from doing what he sent me to do. So living a life on purpose. If that's not really someone's thing, I would say hard work and grace always outwork. No, that's a lie. Hard work and grace always win over hustle. So not to get into that hustle, hustle, hustle mentality like we talked about earlier of what's next, but realizing that if I work hard with what I have today and I allow grace to do its thing, then I don't need to put that extra pressure of hustling and grinding 24/7 and burning out on top of me, because it'll take care of itself. Everything that's meant for you is meant for you and will happen. Everything that's not, the door will be closed. So that was a lot more than one sentence, but that's my heart.
I think that's the absolute perfect thing to end on. Thank
Thank you.
you so much for giving me some of your time today, Christina. This was absolutely incredible.
Of course, you're so good at this. I'm excited. I want to do another one.
Well, for GALvanize, I'm RoseAnn Sapia. Thanks for joining us.